Bedtime Biography, Stasiland, Book Summary, Chapter 5. What happens when a state chooses fear over trust? In the 1980s, the answer began to unfold. Across the Iron Curtain, things were shifting. The communist hold on power was weakening, the economy stalled, people grew more restless, protests grew and kept growing. In Russia, Mikhail Gorbachev tried something new. He called it glasnost. It meant more openness to the West. It meant telling the truth, a little more. But in East Germany, things were different. The Stasi would not loosen their grip. They planned to stop the protests with force. They had a playbook called Day X. If ordered, 90,000 people would be arrested. Anyone suspected of disloyalty would be swept up. That was the plan. Luckily, Day X never happened. The people were too strong. In Leipzig, 70,000 protesters surrounded the Stasi building. They refused to leave for weeks. They demanded answers and justice. It became clear that force alone would not fix this. Then came November 9, 1989. A strange, hasty decision changed everything. The Politburo announced relaxed travel rules. A low-ranking official spoke on live TV. He said East Germans could now visit the West. When a reporter asked, "When does this start?" he replied, "Immediately, I suppose." Those words sent people running. At Bornholmer Bridge, 10,000 cars lined up in hours. Guards were confused and unsure. The crowd pressed forward. The guards opened the gates. Tens of thousands walked across. The Berlin Wall suddenly began to fall. History can move fast in a single night. The government had not meant to give up power. But once the gates opened, the flood began. Soon after, crowds attacked Stasi offices. Inside, officers shredded files. When the machines broke, they tore papers by hand. They set them on fire. Smoke rose from the building. People were furious. They would not let their history vanish. Protesters broke into the Stasi HQ. They filled trucks with papers to save. By the end of 1990, the East German state had collapsed. Leaders were arrested or fled. A path to reunification began. A new Germany would rise. And the Stasi would be exposed? A Stasi file authority was set up. Its job was to sort the papers. It aimed to open the files and show the truth. Maybe through those files, lives could be mended. Now let us return to Miriam. When last we saw her, she had just left prison. She had served 2 harsh years. Life after that was hard. She could not study. She could not find a steady job. She lived on the edge of society. Yet she met a man she loved. His name was Charlie. Charlie had been in trouble before. As a young man, he had once swum out to a Swedish fishing boat. It was a foolish dare. When he came ashore, the police were waiting. He was suspected of trying to flee. The Stasi watched him ever since. Charlie and Miriam married in the 1970s. In 1980, he applied to move to the West. Sometimes the state let troublemakers go, but not this time. He was arrested at once. He was charged with attempting to flee the Republic. 2 months later, a policeman knocked at Miriam's door. He told her Charlie was dead. He had hanged himself in prison, the man said. Miriam refused to believe it. She knew her husband. She knew he would not kill himself. She pressed for answers. Each visit to the prison raised more questions. The commissioner told changing stories. First a sheet, then trousers. The details did not match. Miriam asked for an open casket funeral. The state funeral home refused. They said only cremation was possible. Miriam had been in Stasi cells before. She understood what cremation could mean. She understood how the state could hide things. She believed Charlie had been killed in interrogation. She thought they had disposed of his body on purpose. For years she asked to see the files. She got nowhere. A totalitarian state does not usually admit to murder. Miriam carried the doubt for decades. She knew she might never prove what happened. Then the Stasi collapsed. Protesters stormed the HQ. They found sacks and sacks of shredded paper. About 15,000 sacks full of shredded files were rescued. They were taken to a building near Nuremberg. There, teams of people began a huge task. They tried to put the papers back together. The work is slow and patient. Teams can reassemble about 400 pages a day. At that rate, the whole job might take 400 years. Yet Miriam felt a flicker of hope. Somewhere in those sacks could be the truth about Charlie. This part of the story shows how power hides behind paper. The Stasi worked hard to keep secrets. They wanted to make it normal to lose someone in the night. They wanted people to fear each other. They wanted no trust. They wanted to stay in the shadows. But the people pushed back. They shone light into those shadows. They saved the files. They made a place to read the truth. Miriam started to feel a small peace. Not because she had proof, but because the search had begun. Because others had refused to let the past be burned away. What does this teach us? First, that systems can be brutal in quiet ways. Second, that the truth often survives in small things. A torn letter, a file in a sack. Third, that people can still act when they are scared. If you read the book that tells Miriam's life, you will see more. You will see how one woman bore loss and kept living. You will see how a nation learned to look back. You will see how the work of slow hands might one day bring answers. Ask yourself, what would you do if the truth you wanted was buried in pieces? Would you join the ones who try to stitch it back together? In the end, Miriam's story is about loss and about hope. It is about files and fire and about people who chose to remember. It is about the idea that even after the darkest things, some truth can win out.